welcome back for our Father's Day commemoration here today. Um, you can already see we have a guest, our guest Kamal Agarwal. But before I introduce you, it'll be apt I narrate one of the incidents that really inspired me. So once upon a time, long back when Albert Einstein was around and he was teaching in a university, um, to one of his class, he gave a test for his class to write, right? And he gave that test, and he came out of the class. And after a while, one of his assistant professors approached him and asked him, "Sir, is that not really the same test you had given to the same class a year ago?" Uh, he says, "Yes, but the answers have changed." So, what does that really tell us is that we need a continuous introspection as humans, as we enhance ourselves, as we improve our understanding. We have to continuously challenge ourselves and figure out a way to make things better. And Ms. Kamal Agarwal brings to us a wealth of experience, in the same stream. She professionally works as a behavior coach and a career counselor, and we are very eager to listen to her. The new way of thinking as to how we can look at the current situation and how we can topple this situation on its head. Her talk is titled Crisis Calls for Greatness. With that, I'd like to hand over to Kamal Agarwal. Welcome, Kamal. I hope you're well settled. Um, if you need a few more minutes, I'll continue to rant on and keep my audience distracted.
Thank you, Harmeet. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for introducing me. Thank you for giving me this brilliant opportunity. And I would begin with saying a very, very happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. This is one day when we actually celebrate the beauty of fatherhood, what fathers bring to the table quietly and without making any much noise, because moms are celebrated all the time, but it is rarely that moment where we take a moment to talk about dads. And I believe today is that day. So a very happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Now, I would like to say Happy Father's Day, and my stress here would be on the word happy. That is the most important part, and what I wish you all to focus on today, and not just today, but every day, every moment of the year. You should always try to be on being happy. Now, we are talking about the changing role of fathers, as Harmeet had just mentioned. uh, Earlier, when we used to see our fathers or our fathers, they were more of providers in their family. They were more of people who would be the disciplinarian of the house. They would be seen as a person who's authoritarian, who is disciplining, and who is the provider for the family. However, with time, what we've seen, and I'm sure we all must have observed this also, that now the role of the father has changed from just being a provider or a disciplinarian to be more cohesive with the family, to be more in line with the, everything. He is a coach. He is a guide. He has come all the way from being a provider to becoming a coach, a guide, a friend, a nurturer to the children also. In today's world, fathers do not just play a role in providing for the family, they also are playing a very, very important role from the very beginning, from the day the child is born, to the extent that nowadays even fathers ask for a paternity leave to spend child with the newborn baby. And I think that is a very, very important and beautiful thing, because that not just creates a bond with the child of the father and child bond, but that also creates a beautiful bond with the mother, because their mother at the time is dealing with the postpartum depression most of the times. And if the father is there hand holding and supporting the mother, then that association that is built is very, very strong. Having said so, that is how the role of the father has changed. Today the father does not shy away from changing nappy for the child. The father does not shy away from actually feeding the child. Not, I do not mean breastfeed the child, that's not biologically possible, but yes, if there is a formula milk to be fed, if there is milk, other foods that are to be given to the child with time, the father is there. The father is there to play with the child. The father is there to guide the child. Now, what I also see is that today's fathers are more and more into their children. They connect with the child more. The child connects with the father more, which was earlier not seen so much. Earlier the children were more scared of the father. They would try to run away and hide away from the father when the moment the father used to step in. But today the children, they run up to the father when they see the father. They want to spend more time with the father, and they look up to the father as a role model, as an ideal to which they feel they can follow, to whom they go when they need solutions, when they seek answers for. Now, having said so, I also understand that many of you watching this are having things differently. Though you would want to do all the above, you may not be getting the opportunity to do it, or you may would be looking forward to doing it, but you get to do it very, very less. The frequency may not be that much. But trust me, that that does not mean that your child does not love you as much as any other child would love. Because what I feel is the physical presence of the child, the physical presence of the father for the child is not very important, though it is important, of course, yes, but it is not a deterrent to what the child feels for the father. That is what I would want you to understand. My father was in the merchant navy, and he used to sail. He used to be away for 6 months at time. He used to be away for 8 months at a stretch. But that did not mean I don't love my father, I don't respect my father. I look up to my father for whatever tenure that he used to be with us for his holidays. That was about a month or 2 months sometimes, and then be gone for 6 months or for 8 months. Uh, but whenever he was with us, he instilled in us the values that are with us till today. So, what is more important is whatever time that you get to spend with your child, irrespective, it could be once in a month, it could be twice a month, it could be every day, it could be once in 5 months, whatever is the time that you spend with the child, what do you give to your child is important. Please understand, we need to be very, 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 very conscious of the fact that what we do when we are there with the child. I do understand it gets emotionally disturbing at times when we don't get to see our children, when we don't get to spend time with our children. But that is why my topic also has been named as Crisis Calls for Greatness. Yes, my dear friends, yes, I completely can relate when you say it is tough. But then, how can we make it easier? Sometimes, when things change in life, we feel boggled with it, and we kind of get into that wave and we are unable to come out of it. When we do that, and whenever we meet our children in that mindset, that is what we pass on to our children also. And please understand, the very fact that children can actually gauge the vibrations, the vibes that you have more than we adults can. So even if you're not saying it out and loud, but if you are yourself angry or afraid, or you are fearful, or you are whatever feeling that you're carrying with you, and if it is not a happy positive feeling, that is what the child will feel in your presence. So our first aim should be that as and when or whenever and how often we meet our child, we should be able to give him those positive vibes which will make him want to meet us more often, which will make him want to think about us when we are not there with him. When the child thinks about you, that very feeling comes to his mind. That should be your primary concern, and that will only come when you are able to keep your mind in a positive environment, when you are able to be in a happy zone. I know it's easier said than done. I know you all must be thinking there that, oh, what does she know about it? Ask us what we are going through. I totally understand it, you, my friends. However, we are the ones who can create that change. We are the ones who can create that happy place in our mind. Yes, it is difficult, and that is why we are talking about it today. We have to channelize our energies to a different thing. What happens is sometimes we get into that thought process, and that thinking leads to another one, to another, to another, and we get into a vicious circle of thinking negatively. And when I say negativity, it is negativity about the child. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if my child forgets me? What if he never remembers me? What if my child sees me in a bad light? Well, let me tell you, you are the one who can change it. If you're not focusing on your career at this time, if you're not staying happy, it will impact adversely on your career. If it impacts adversely on your career, it will also impact adversely on all the other aspects of your life. Maybe your relationship with your parents, if you're with them, your relationship with your friends, everything. And then again, as I said, it leads to a vicious cycle from one bad to another. What we need to do is break that. We need to break our limiting belief factors. Sometimes we start believing, when certain things happen with us, we start believing that, because of my this thing, I wasn't able to do it, or this happened. When we start thinking those things, we get more depressed, we get more sad, we are unhappy about everything. So the first thing that I want you to do is to stop thinking on those lines. Stop thinking about it at all, and focus on the good things in your life. And I am sure everybody would have something or the other good to look up to: a good career, maybe a good house, a good job, a good set of friends who've been supporting you all this while, a good your parents who've been standing behind you, maybe somebody who you can actually think about and talk to and change that perspective. And very importantly, so when you go meet your children, or whenever you meet your children, or whenever you are with your children, you have to give them that feeling of happiness, because children carry with them those feelings the children relate their experiences with their feelings. So always remember, you have to understand that what are the feelings that you are leaving your child with. Always just focus on that. Now you should always focus on, your child will know what you are doing. Always remember this fact, and I think this will help you move ahead in life with a positive mind frame. So if in your mind, if you think, what I am doing, how will my child think about it if I come across to him like this? Question yourself. When you do that, you will know that your child will always know what you are doing, whether he's meeting you or not meeting you, whether he's with you or not, whether you are with him or not. Your child will always know what are you doing. So when you do something right, your child gets to know. When you do you do something big, your child gets to know. You can send a small message to him. There are friends, there are family members who can help you do that. So whenever you get an achievement and your child gets to know about it, your child will know that yes, my father is my role model, or my father is somebody I can look up to. Even if everybody else is trying to feed the child, as has been discussed in other talks before me, people have said these things, that sometimes there are insecure mothers, sometimes there are insecure situations, sometimes it's just anger that makes the mother tell the child wrong things about the father. But if you are doing right in your life, and if your son or child sees you're doing the right things, and if he knows that you are achieving things in your life, definitely the child after a while will change his perception about you. It will happen. But for that, you need to be strong, and you need to hold on to your emotions. You need to let time be the biggest healers for not just you, but for your child also. Please understand, the entire thing is not just a change for you, it's a change for the child also. So you have to give him that understanding, that you know and you understand what the child may be going through, right? So that is what is most important for fathers. When you meet your child, please understand that these are the things, uh, the feelings that the child has. So from that perspective, if you meet your child, you talk to him about what he wants, what he feels, and what he thinks the future will hold for him. That's how you should be with your child, with your own emotions in control. You need to understand that the child is the primary person in your life. I know that that is what you must be feeling also, and that is why we are today talking about it. Another thing that we should look at is the role of your career today. When you are going through these tough times, it is important for fathers to focus on their career in the right way. Sometimes these emotional situations lead us to not be able to perform in our career, which impacts our life again on a different tangent. So, tomorrow, please understand that if you are doing good in your life, if you are taking the right path, your children will definitely come back to you. Because in today's time, after a while, the child also sees the mother and the father separately as two individuals, and the child has an understanding of his own. We do underestimate the child's mind in thinking that somebody will pollute the child's mind or his thought processes. Please understand, they may do it for a short period of time, but over a long period of time, if you are successful, if you are doing the right things, if you are leading the life in the right manner, trust me, your children will look up to you, and they will come back to you and say that to you themselves. Wait for those moments in your life. I know it is tough. It is tough at the moment. At times, it becomes very, very difficult also. It could be unbearable at times. But then that's the test of your fatherhood, maybe. That's the test. How good a father can you be by holding on to yourself, by doing the right things for yourself? You are leading a way for your children to see that yes, in difficulties also we need to follow the right path. We cannot go astray. And that is one problem with these children. They children from disturbed marriages, the children start going astray. So if you are a strong father, if you're doing the right things, what you're also doing is you are setting up an example for your children. You are being that role model. Would you have been in their life, you would have also done the same thing. You would have been a role model. So being away from that also, from them, you can still be a role model for them. So I urge all the fathers on this platform today that please try and think from a perspective and ask your question, what I am doing today, how would my child feel about it? How would my child look up to me if I do this or that? That is what your decisions should be based on. And I think if you do that, you will be able to do the right things in your life. So, now another thing that I want to also talk about is uh, when you meet your child. Again, as I said, as and when you meet your child, you've worked upon yourself, you're doing the right things. But when you meet your child, or when you talk to your child, what are the things that you should be conscious about? The first thing that you should talk to your child is how you feel about the child. How you feel about the child, not in terms of what has happened, what anybody else is saying to him. No, you should not be focused on that. All you should be focused on is what you feel about the child, that you are proud of that child still, that you love that child still. Those are the things that are important for you to talk to your child when you meet. Mostly, what happens is we get into that same discussion, that same points when we meet the child, even after about a month or so, or once a month, or twice a month, or like about whenever we meet the child. I would request you to not talk about anything pertaining to whatever has happened. Instead, talk to the child about the child. Talk to the child about how you feel that is he's a very strong child, that he's a very lovely child. Whatever your feelings are, please tell that child your feelings about the child, not about the situation, not about the mom, how the mom is handling things, not about how the grandparents are handling things. Nothing. It's about you and your child, your feelings about your child. That's the first and foremost thing that you should do. The second thing is what you believe about the child. You should talk to the child about, and you can do that in a friendly manner. When you meet your child, you don't need to be sad and sorry and things like that. You need not come across as a person who is sullen all the time. Why? Because when you do that, when the child goes back home, and till the time he meets you again, the feelings that are associated with the father are the feeling of a person who is sad, who is not happy. And I'm sure you would understand that children don't like that feeling at all. So, whenever you are with your child, please and please make sure you give him happy moments. You give him good feelings about the child, about him. So, everything that you are doing at that point in time is about him. That should be your focus, that you believe in him, that you would be there to provide solutions for him as and when he needs you. No questions asked. These are the few things that you should always keep in mind whenever you're meeting your child, whenever you are there with your child. Now there comes the second part of this. When you're not with your child, you're dealing with a lot of emotions within, when you wake up in the morning, you remember hugging your child, you remember talking to your children, and you think they might be missing all that, you're doing something wrong. All these things could be coming in your mind, and that will give you emotional stress. So one thing that I would request all the fathers here is make a diary for yourself. This is very, very important, and trust me, it may sound irrelevant to you today, or it may sound kiddish, but trust me, every day write down your feelings in that diary. There will be a time when your children will come back to you, when they maybe turn 16 or 18. Then it will be their choice to come back to you, to come and meet you. At that time, you should have those things. You can share those with your children. And how good that would be, that your child would know you've always been on his mind. Imagine it from that perspective. You are only looking at this small tenure of time. You're looking at the short term horizon, but look at the longer term horizon. Maybe 1 or 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, your child would come back and say, "Yes, dad, you are the one I've always been looking up to. You are the one I admire." So always think from that perspective. You can, if you're unable to meet your children, write a letter for your child. you know uh, Depending on your emotions, you can write a letter every week, you can write a letter twice a month, and pour your heart out in that letter, and just keep that letter with you. And trust you me, my friend, there will come a time when you would get a chance to share those letters, and imagine how happy that would make you and your children. Imagine that child who's reading those emotions that are there in you. So please do that. That will give you the power, the positivity, the happy mindset, which will help you pull yourself up and do what is right at this very moment, for you to do the right things, to become a role model for your child, who would, after 3, 4, 5, 10 years, look up and say, "That's my dad, and I'm so proud of my dad." And with that, thank you very much. Thank you to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day once again, with a stress on happiness.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kamal. That's really powerful and strong message that you've given. Um, that
Thank you very much.
fathers should paint themselves on a canvas that is large enough that they're unavoidable.
Absolutely.
So that's a really strong message. So we're beginning to see questions pour in.
Absolutely.
So one of the questions that has come in from you, from Mr. Dutt, is that what career advice have you given generally to parents who are going through separation and they're experiencing a lot of anxiety? Um, how you have been able to help them get over the crisis and focus on their career and be the good role model for their kids?
Absolutely. So, yes, I think when you are feeling a change in your life, anxiety is bound to happen. You know, uh, Anxiety is part of change. So, there is a big change that is happening in everybody's life, in all the people that are part of that change. And the anxiety is there with you, with the other spouse, and the child, all of you. So the first aspect is to pull yourself up. And anxiety comes from the thoughts that we have, the limiting beliefs that we start believing in, the limiting beliefs that we start having in ourselves. So the first thing that I suggest in such a situation is meditation. And it will sound very bookish, and it will sound very off the shelf, or maybe it will sound very common to say, yes, okay, everybody will tell you to meditate. But breathing is a powerful technique to actually control anxiety. So it is important for you, as a human being also, to first get your emotions right. Then only you will be able to deal with the external world. So first you have to deal with yourself internally, in terms of accepting what is happening, terms of finding a mechanism to deal with the changes that are going to happen in your life as a result of this process. You need to understand that first and accept it, that okay, this is happening. Now what is the next step that I can take to make this go away, or make this easier for everyone? you know don't hold on to grudges. The second thing that I always say to help anxiety is, don't get into holding grudges against anybody for at that point in time. Because why I say so is, I'm not saying other person may not be wrong. I'm not saying the other person is not doing wrong to you. I'm not saying that somebody is impacting your spouse to think like that. I'm not saying all that. Why I'm saying this is, when you're holding a grudge against somebody, be it your spouse, be it your spouse parent, spouse friend, you are hurting yourself more than anything else. And when you're hurting yourself, it is difficult for you to come to terms with the situations around you and to think practically to solutions that are needed. So the first step would be to start meditation, which is breathing technique. You can
Hmm.
use whichever. There are no specific ones. You can just Google it. You can just YouTube it, the right way of breathing. Start doing that for 15 minutes and you will see a change in your thought process. That is the first step. The second step is accepting.
True.
The second step is accepting, and then the third step is finding the logical solutions. This is what I suggest.
So, as a behavioral trainer, um, how do you identify people who are going through this internal crisis in a corporate setting, and what message you would carry for corporates to help these individuals?
So as for identifying Harmeet, I don't look out for people maybe who are going or having this. I do not. I honestly speaking. When people come to me, when people approach me with a specific problem, that maybe in a training session you'd mentioned that control your emotions, or how to strengthen your emotions, so then if they come back and ask, so Kamal, this is the problem that I'm going through, what do you recommend here? And then everything is situation based. There is not a one cutout solution for every human being that I can say, because each human being is different. Each human being has a different personality style. Each human being has a different way of understanding things. So the solution will vary person to person, case to case. I need to understand what is triggering things in that person. What are those emotions? What are the basis of those trigger points? How can we remove those trigger points from the situation? And a lot of other things that we need to focus on when we are actually dealing with a situation like this.
All right, all right. Kamal, what has triggered you to make note of all these things and talk about it?
So, see, what I feel is I have been doing a lot of gender sensitization programs also, and I am myself a posh trainer as well. So, what I feel is that irrespective of the gender, we should be fair in saying what is right and what is wrong. It should not be gender biased. Because it's a female, this could be right, or because this is a male, this could be wrong. We need to come out of that mindset now. It's high time we should have a fair and balanced understanding of calling a spade, calling a right. That's what
Very,
I strongly believe on today.
very
And that
true.
is the need of the hour. We cannot have a society which is skewed to either sides, either male or female. I mean, that would not be right, so to say. And I'm not saying that things have not gone with women also. It has, for sure, but that doesn't say that now we are going to give it back or something like that. It has to be a fair judgment, whether
True.
it should be unbiased of gender. That's what I feel strongly about.
True, true. We cannot carry the burdens of the wrongs done by the earlier generations, right? You cannot
Absolutely.
ask current generation to
To
bear the
pay for.
burdens of the
Absolutely.
wrongs done by the previous generation, right? We are just trying to live our lives, right?
So true, Harmeet. That's so true. Actually, we're trying to all live our lives, and every like is for anything. The constitutional right itself says that we should not be. We have a right to equality, irrespective of caste, race, gender, anything. So
Right.
let's respect the constitutional right at least.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the challenge we run into is challenging the norms require people to think a lot, right?
Absolutely.
And science has proven that the brain is actually built to think as less as possible because thinking consumes a lot of energy. So we are actually biologically wired to come to as quick conclusions as possible to conserve the energy in our body, right? But then we every now and then we come across people who put in that extra effort, see at things, and bring about a social change, right?
Right,
And
right.
thanks to people like you, we have, it was great that you recognized that your father would be out there on his merchant navy contract, and while he'd be away, you would be away, but then he'd be carrying you in his mind, right?
Absolutely, all the
Right,
time. I think that's the beauty of being a father.
right,
They always carry you with them in their minds. That's the
correct.
first thing. I think even before a spouse, what I feel is the father thinks of the children before anything else.
True, true. So we have soldiers who are on the borders who would take a bullet,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And they would,
Absolutely.
in their last moments, they would not even get to say goodbyes, right? And
Absolutely. So
they'd be
true.
doing that not for all the countrymen, but for their kids and their families, so that they could have better future, right?
And that's precisely what I meant, Harmeet, when I said,
Right.
now that child may not have seen the father, but he will always be proud of the father.
Yep.
That is
Very true.
the narrative that I am trying to bring to this table, that do something that your child is always proud of. And then, no matter what the world says to you or to the child will say, I am proud of my father. You don't need to do much about that. Don't you agree with that?
Oh, very true, very true. So, Kamal, when you come across, have you in your behavioral training or interacting with people or helping them out with the various issues they've been facing, have you come across individuals who have carried the trauma from their childhood, which is impacting their adult life today? Because I ask this because the parental alienated children, right, carry that trauma. That's the cross they bear on them throughout their life. And we were talking to our guest Alice, and she was narrating that nobody in her school could figure out uh, why she doesn't really have a voice. What's wrong with her,
Mm.
right? The people were left wondering. So, in your practice, have you come across grown-ups who carry the trauma from their childhood, and they are dysfunctional adults, and that somewhere shows up and starts to impact their career? How do you think, what can be done to help them?
You're absolutely right, Harmeet. Uh, Personalities start forming at a very young age. And when a child is going through such situations, the child is also thinking, and he is also judging, and he is forming his opinions. And that's how we are conditioning him. So at times, children who've had tough childhood, or children who've gone through difficult times in their childhood, they have personality issues in later stages of their life, sometimes to that extent where they themselves, it is difficult for them to have a normal relationship, be it a spouse relationship. And to the extent, I've met children who say, we don't want to get married because of such a situation. And you would see in our society, you will see a trend, a new trend that is coming in, is children are shying away from getting married, right? And that is as a result of seeing a lot of friction between the spouses, that the children start forming that opinion, that why do I need such a problem in my life? And that's what we are doing wrong, that's what we are conditioning wrong. Our children are being conditioned wrong in thinking that the relationship is only about friction, whereas the relationship can be much more than that. It is a complementary relationship. It is a relationship where we are balancing out each other's strengths and weaknesses. But what we are alternatively doing and unconsciously doing is creating a different mindset in the child's mind. So the child, from separated marriages, from divorced spouses, from difficult marriages, these child mostly do have personality issues, and at times they're not able to pinpoint because we don't know at a corporate level. When they come to us, we don't know what is the background they've come from or whatever the situation. Sometimes even children hide that. But when you talk to people who are not very vocal about their feelings, or who are very aggressive in their behavior, you will find out that the reason has been this. The reason has been this. And that's the irony of our society, I would say. And we as parents also, a responsibility of us. We do not understand that this powerful organ that we have in our body, the organ called the brain, is a very, very, very powerful tool. And once something is put into that, we have conditioned it for life. So as we know, we say we live a life in our brain, and that is the life we lead. So we need to change that life here, for
True.
us, for our children, everyone.
In fact,
Okay.
we are already finding in societies like Japan, where the grown-ups are refusing to, or the teenagers are refusing to get married because
Absolutely.
they feel in countries like Japan, there's a tremendous pressure to hold your job
Hmm.
and then fulfill all the duties as a spouse, right?
Absolutely.
So many individuals who have come from broken families, they have trust issues, and they're choosing their perspective is more limited to themselves, and they tend to think, I don't want that complication in my life. I don't want the additional burden of having to fend for the whole family, and I can just choose to go my way, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's precisely the point that I was trying to make. That's how we are conditioning uh, children to think, and that should
Right.
not be the way forward, because then it's not a very happy situation for any one of us, for that matter. So it is important that we train them well and we condition them in the right direction, in
Absolutely.
not in the wrong direction. And that's what where I say a brain is a powerful tool again, and it is on us. The life that we want to create is the life that we create in our brains. So the moment we change the narrative in your mind, the life changes. It is as simple as that, but it is very, very difficult to actually follow that.
True. Shamji, I see you're back. You're on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there was a bit of network glitch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's better
So
now.
I wanted to ask to Kamal that uh, I know that she's a more of a corporate trainer. Behavioral training is her core expertise, and career counseling is something that she specializes in. So you have asked one part, that how exactly you try to counsel. So Harmiji has covered that, but I would like to understand that when someone approaches you with a certain problem, are there any common behavioral traits that he or she exhibits, and how you use them in your study or in your analysis to counsel them to be positive, to be assertive in life.
So Sham, when you say common behavioral traits, what do you actually mean by that? I mean, in terms of
Yeah. So, because one common thing that we notice when people are a bit distressed is being very short-tempered or being aggressive, right?
okay.
Like this, if someone approaches you with any trauma or any difficulties, do you see any common traits, common behavioral issues in them? The reason I'm asking this is, uh, I think Sushant Singh Rajput, right?
Right, right,
No,
right.
no one expected that he will
They will,
he
yeah.
will disappear
Yes,
in this
yes.
way. Okay,
And that's very
so
unfortunate and
now
a sorry thing to happen.
the sorry factor is people surrounding him did not even realize that he can go to such extent. Okay, so in our society we may have many people. Okay, and most of the time with men there is a stigma attached that
Hmm.
men should not cry. Men should not reveal their sorrows. So probably that stigma sometimes makes them to take away their own life. So have you seen any such things? And
Uh,
how do you tackle that?
Honestly, I've not seen any such thing where people have gone to that extreme. But when you say behavioral traits, you one aspect of it is when we say that the person is aggressive, or he's short-tempered, or he gets angry very quickly. The other aspect is the sense of uh, losing oneself in terms of I am not good enough. That is also one feeling that people generally have when they come to us. And how do we relate to that is when they say, the profile that I am in, I don't think so I can do justice to it. That's how they start talking about it. And then when you dig deeper and ask questions, it is basically their self confidence is shaken because of whatever event that they've gone through. They feel they are not worthy. They feel they are worthless. That sense of worthlessness is the major cause. These people then tend to get into a shell. They would not volunteer for things in office. If given a task, they will not speak out. And then slowly and steadily, they start taking a back seat in the organization. That is where we need to stop them. So that is where a role of a counselor comes, and that you have to remove those limiting thoughts in the mind of that person. And we have so many techniques of doing that. We have anchoring technique, and we have many many other techniques that we use. We have a tapping technique, which is a beautiful technique that we teach our anybody who comes to me with that sort of mind frame. We use that. I specifically use the tapping technique, and it is very very powerful technique, wherein you can immediately change the narrative in your head. And these are the small things that you start doing, and then the change starts happening. That is what I would say here.
Is that something which can be done in a minute or two so that all our audience get benefited by that?
So basically, when I say a tapping technique is a very, very powerful tool, Sham. And let me quickly give you a small understanding of it. What is a tapping tool? A tapping tool is, say, suppose I feel I'm not worthy. I feel I'm not worthy. But then what I say to myself is, okay, I tap on my hand here with my two fingers. I tap here and I say, okay, I feel I'm worthless, but I respect, love, and value myself. Then you move from here, you move to your shoulder and you say, I feel worthless, but still I love, accept, and respect myself. Then you move from here, you move to your head and you say, I feel worthless, but I still love, respect, and value myself. Then you move here and you say, I feel worthless, but I still love, respect, and value myself. And then you come to your heart and you say, I feel worthless, but I love, value, and respect myself. And then you come back to where you started and you say, I feel worthless, but I love, value, and respect myself. This, if you keep doing for 10 days, you will love, value, and respect yourself. This is a very, very powerful tool and technique that you can use with your uh, people.
Is there something which I can adapt to something to put back in my life to love it, which I may not be loving it now? Okay.
Uh, I see tapping is a technique when you have a limiting belief in your mind, how to break that belief so that happens when you start accepting and loving yourself. So this is the first step of doing it. Trust me, when you do this slowly and steadily, that vibrations that go out will attract the right things back in your life. Please understand, when things go wrong in our life, what happens is we create a circle of vibrations that are all negative, because we start thinking on those lines, and we are creating a web of negativity around ourselves. Are you understanding me? So
Right.
try doing the tapping technique once with me, Sham. Please try doing it, and Harmeet, please do it. And no, here at
Yeah.
the here palm. This
I
this
see.
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, here. tap here with two fingers, tap here and say, whatever is your limiting belief, what you feel, anything that you can think in your mind, anything that is stopping you from moving ahead, just say that in your mind and then say, but still I love, value, and respect myself. Again,
I love, value, and respect myself.
yes,
Right.
then come to the shoulder. Come to the shoulder and say that thing that you feel, and then say, I still value and respect myself.
Myself.
Okay,
All right.
then come to the head and here, yeah, and say
Yeah.
that same thing, and I still value and respect myself.
Right.
And then here,
Yeah.
over your eyebrows, yes,
Yeah.
I still value and respect myself, after
Yeah.
saying whatever is your limiting belief. And then your heart, then your heart, then your
Okay.
heart, I
Yeah.
still value and respect myself. And
I
then you
still
come
value
back
and
here
respect
and do it
myself.
3 times.
I see.
Whatever is your limiting belief, and then I still value and respect myself. I still value and respect myself, and still value and respect myself thrice, and then you leave it.
Nice.
Very
Nice.
nice. Very nice.
So I think knowingly or unknowingly, Kamal has exactly called out what we say at SIF. Keep yourself first when you are in stress. Keep
Absolutely.
yourself first and start loving you, because if you start loving you, the whole universe starts with you. So,
Absolutely. Beautifully
wonderful
said.
message. Very nice way to conclude the session as well. Thanks a
Well,
lot.
Sham, this is Suprakash here.
Yes, Suprakashi.
Yeah, so I have started loving myself. So I have a very good question, which is not definitely not related to corporate training. So this is something which is like whoever all the viewers are watching. So I I may be representing their question as well through my question.
Mm-hmm.
So here is my question. Like.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, fathers have started taking multiple roles in terms of taking care of their kids. Even
Right.
as a father, I have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And in the course of doing that, I have seen that my kid started, considering me as a single point of contact for every single needs of
Mm-hmm.
her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, in due course of time, like in general, if fathers start doing this, then the kids start loving the father and coming to the father much often.
Mm-hmm.
And in that course, do you think that the mother feel jealous about it, and that's what kind of triggers a fight, or which grows further and affects the spousal relationship? uh,
So I think,
Right.
Suprakash ji, if I were to say it, correct me if what you're saying is sometimes the both parents could be equally loving towards the child,
right.
and they're, uh, for reasons beyond us, they get insecure about
Yes.
the relationship the child shares with the other parent, and it leads to a situation uh, which with proper counseling could have been altogether avoided.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here, I think it's about mutual understanding between the spouse. I think the spouse then needs to talk it out with each other. The child has no role here. And when we talk about doing chores, we are also saying that it is to help each other. When we are doing certain things, and the fathers have started doing certain things, it's also to help each other, to support each other, right? And
Mhm.
I will tell you one thing, and you are a father, Suprakash, and you would also know that children change this from every age. For 2 years, 1 year, they'll be very fond of the father, then suddenly they'll move to mother, they'll be very fond of the mother, then after a certain age, they'll come back to the father. And depending on the gender of the child, whether the child is a male or a female, that shift keeps happening. So as parents, we need to understand, and we need to be in tune with each other. And when you feel that that's happening, and when you see your spouse being affected by it, you should be the one talking it out with your spouse, and you should be the one giving her the confidence, or him the confidence, that look, it is momentary, it is for a short span of time, and slowly and steadily the child will come back to you. It's not that that the child loves you lesser. It's just that at what age, what kind of attention the child needs.
Right.
That's what I would
True,
like to say
true.
here.
Yep.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you, Kamal. That was really insightful. We're really
Thank
honored
you.
to have you here with us. I think a lot of fathers had a takeaway that they just need to make their life. It's an opportunity for them to make their life larger than they ever dreamed.